Alrighty guys, I'm in underneath of our 5-foot press brake today. I'm attempting to do some maintenance and make some adjustments to our machine to just get things dialed in a little bit better. So I thought I'd just take a second to show you guys how I'm going to attempt to do that. And I just want to preface this by saying that I have had zero training on this. I am taking my best educated guess at getting this remedied so that everything is good and true and accurate as can be. So with that said, I will turn this camera and show you kind of what I've got going on here. So back in here behind our press brake, we have our upper ram and we have our back gauges here. We have our lower beam that has our die holder on it with the die in place. This piece, the upper ram, does not have any kind of adjustment as far as in and out. The only adjustments that you can really make on it are with these wedges right here on the tool holders, as far as getting your articulation correct that direction. I still need to address that, but for starters, what I'm trying to accomplish is getting our back gauges here trued up to our dies, our lower dies, and our die holder. As you can see, the die holder is adjustable. Again, as I said, this is not. So we're starting here. This is 0.0. So the first thing that I did was I got a die in the die holder so that way it's a machined as can be surface to reference off of as far as being able to move this back and forth. From that point, I attached this dial indicator to the die, and I had it, in hindsight I probably should have went to these, but I ran it up against the upper punches, started in the middle, checked my distance there, slid the die over, checked on various different punches on either side. And from there, I made my adjustments here to make sure that the die is squared up to the punch. So now that that's been accomplished, I'm moving on to getting our back gauges all trued up and parallel to our die holder and punch. So on these machines, there is an adjustment knob here on the back that will fine-tune the adjustment fore and aft. And in order to accomplish that, you have to loosen up these two fasteners here. As well, on the sides, I believe what these are for is controlling the pitch. So I loosened these up, got my dial indicator on there, got it zeroed out, and then slid this back gauge side to side while squaring it up with these. Once I got the center one done, I locked it back down into place. From there, I moved on to doing the other two back gauges in the same fashion. So I slid the die holder over into place, or the back gauge into place, loosened up these two. First, I would do getting it square. After that, then I would make my adjustment. Once I knew that it was square, I would make my adjustment on my dial wheel here to get it to the same distance as the center one. So obviously I repeated that process for this side and that side. So the next thing that I wanted to check was to make sure that this beam that these slide on is also parallel to all of my tooling up front there. Because as you can see, it is adjustable. This is just simply a piece of rectangular tubing with these linear rails attached to for these to slide on. So just because I got everything trued up here and all of the punches are trued up to the dies, that does not mean that side to side there will not be some discrepancies. And that I found to be true, because as you can see, we're pretty much zero there. So if I slide this back gauge over here, and I'm trying to do this with one hand, so bear with me. You can see that we gained about 16 or 17 thousandths, meaning that this side is actually slightly forward. As well, if I switch and run it over to the other side here, bear with me, guys. You see that we lost about 38 thousandths. So that tells me that this beam here is not squared up to our tooling at the front. So I'll have to make some adjustments to these, which this is a Chinese import machine. So that being said, the quality assurance on these, the quality control is probably not as good as it could be, as now that I'm under here crawling around checking things, I've noticed there are plenty of things that evidently got overlooked, such as these were never even tight in the first place. So, as well, for our guide bearings on the ram itself, all of these are loose. So I'll need to take the time to get all that stuff tightened up as well, so that this thing operates like a finely tuned machine that it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with attempting to get this bottom beam here back into square with the rest of our tooling here. So I think I got just about all my adjustments done, with the exception of doing these wedges, getting the beam indexed properly that way, getting everything trued up. I'll probably do that here a little later on, but for now, I think I got all the back gauges nice and parallel to the die, which I got parallel to the punch. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that I showed that those were not like tight, stuff like that. I think those are probably to hold, keep pressure against the guide blocks in there. Another thing that I noticed was loose was these jam nuts. So I just tightened the jam nuts up. I didn't make any adjustments to these. I think that the Z-axis, I don't think there's any binding or anything going on there, so I'm not too concerned. But how I think these work is, this is a bolt that is not attached to this. I believe this bolt is bolted to this. There's a through hole in here, and there are threads cut in this that these threads engage. So what you would effectively do is, if you turned just this portion here, it would pull this plate out away from here. And then obviously you tighten down the jam nut to keep everything in place. So, but I believe things are true enough under here that I don't need to make any adjustments with that, but time will tell. So just thought I'd share that with you guys.